Hi there, I hope that you're doing well. Today I'm finally sharing the full process of this painting, which is quite special to me because this was the biggest oil painting I have ever done. So thank you for joining me for the painting process. I tried to keep some parts of it in real time so you can see what I'm doing a bit better, but the video would actually have been hours long if I kept it fully real time, even if I cut out all of the bits where I was mixing colors or stalling and just staring at the painting, which let me tell you, there are a lot of. So a good part of it is sped up, but I hope it's not too jarring. I really wanted to show as much of the process as I could, so here it is. As I said, this is the biggest oil painting that I've ever done. I have worked on a large scale before, but not since starting to work with oils, I don't think. And it's something that's always felt very daunting to me. Like, I never felt ready to tackle such a big project before. But I found some A2 paper a couple of months ago, which, funnily enough, I brought with me when I came back from England. I still had some left and it fit in my suitcase when I came home, so I brought it with me, but I never actually used it. Like, I just stuffed it at the back of my wardrobe and didn't look at it until I found it again. And I've been working with oils for almost 2 years now. It will be 2 years in March, I think. And I'm in a very different place of my art journey than I was back then. And I was really curious and excited to try working on a larger scale again. Not because someone has suggested it, like it's happened before, especially during my A-levels, which is when I had probably last worked on such a large scale, if not bigger as well. But because I felt that I personally needed that space to create the painting that I had in mind and express my idea. So working on a large scale was a really conscious choice for this, and something that I personally decided to do. So it was already starting from a very different place. I did an A3 pencil drawing of this composition before getting to the actual painting, and there's a video about that on my channel as well. And I think I decided that I wanted to paint this as I was working on that drawing because I really love the composition of this piece and I'm really happy with it. But looking at the finished painting now, I can tell that in a few months I'll probably think that this isn't finished, but I'm not going to push it further for now because I don't think I'm ready for it. This feels like it's in a very good place, but also it really feels like the start of something in a way. And I'm really proud of the piece, but I also acknowledge that I have so much to learn still, and I'm excited and curious to see where that journey will lead me, I guess. And also, before I get more into the technical aspect of things and actually talking about the process itself, I want to mention that for once, I have my own interpretation of the piece. I'm not very good at interpreting pieces and understanding how pieces make me feel and things like that. And I'm terrible at explaining it, so I'm not going to go in depth about it, but I will say that this painting is very closely tied to nostalgia and growth to me. I don't think there's really any conscious symbolism that I put in it or anything like that, and I think that it's very important that the viewer gives their own personal interpretation, which, if you have any thoughts about it of the kind, I would love to hear in the comments. I'm more than happy to hear about that and talk about it. But I think for me, that's where the piece came from. I have a very intense relationship with nostalgia, especially revolving around my time in England. I look back at it very fondly, but also it's difficult to think that I even lived through it. It was such a different time from what I'm living through right now, and I'm such a different person to who I was back then that it's really a difficult thing for me to grasp, if it makes any sense. And I'm very glad that I recorded so much of it, even the most mundane moments. And I'm glad that I realized, even as I was there, that I would likely eventually feel this way about it, and I wouldn't remember a lot of the mundane and everyday little things. And I'm so glad I have those captured on video and photos. But yeah, it's a really weird thing for me to think about, and I have quite an intense relationship with it. But anyways, I digress. I know I will get this question, so I'm going to answer it first of all. I am painting on watercolor paper. I believe this is 300 GSM. I do not know what the brand is because I just brought the paper with me, but I didn't have the actual like board that came with it with the brand name and stuff. It might be Canson, but I'm not sure about it. Anyways, it's pretty good quality watercolor paper that I primed with 2 or 3 coats of white gesso in order to be able to paint on it with oils. And that's what I do with my sketchbook pages. If you ever see me paint in my sketchbook or generally on paper or on anything with oils, I prime whatever surface I'm working on with 2 to 3 layers of gesso, wait for it to dry, and then I can work on it with oil paint. So that's something I know that I get asked a lot, so I wanted to mention that first. Other than that, I started with a very simple pencil sketch. I think I just used a regular HB pencil for that, and then I used a spray fixative to fix it in place, because when you go over graphite with oil paint or medium or solvent or anything like that, the graphite does tend to dissolve within it, and then your colors get really muddy, and it's very frustrating. I've had it happen to me a lot of times, and I for once remembered to actually fix the sketch. So that's something to definitely keep in mind if you're planning on doing something similar. And then I just went straight with it with paint. I very often do an underpainting just to establish colors and values very lightly, and then I'll build on it with thicker paint. In this case, what was very interesting to work on for me were both the flowers and the background, because I wanted a lot of texture within them. And so I did add a lot of that towards the end as well, but the flowers got a lot of layers on them, especially the ones at the top. I think I reworked them 2 or 3 times, both in terms of colors and shadows and things like that. But also the backgrounds, I was playing around with this abstract, very loose, broad brush strokes, and it was a lot of fun to work on, but also it was really interesting to find a balance, especially in terms of colors. I used different variations of whites and pastels within it, but it was interesting to find a balance between cool and warm tones and just different colors. There's a lot of yellow, a lot of green, very muted, like light sage green, but also there's some light blue peeking through and some of the peach and orange from the flowers as well. So it was very interesting to work all of those in together. And the portraits were very interesting. So the 2 side portraits came together pretty much straight away, and then I didn't work on them much more, and it's why I think at some point I will maybe want to come back to this, and I'm not going to varnish the piece for now, even though the colors do look a bit muted at the moment because the oil has started to dry, and when you do actually varnish a painting, that really brings back a lot of the color that you actually put within it, and when the painting is dry but isn't varnished, it tends to look very muted and dull. But I think I'll want to come back to it eventually, but I also don't think I'm ready for it yet, so I'll leave it as is for now. The middle portrait, on the other hand, as you can see from most of the process, it's just blurry. I didn't get it right in the sketch, I don't think, which was very interesting because looking at the drawing, the middle portrait was the one that turned out the best in my opinion, and the other 2 very clearly have some issues, like just some anatomy issues compared to the reference photos that I used. But the middle one, in this case, I just did not get right, and I couldn't get it right until the very end. I'm happy with it now, but it took so many tries and alterations. I went back to it so many times. I think around this point is when I got it to look human for the first time, but then the hair was weird, and so I just added another flower to it, and then I didn't touch the painting for, I would say, a good couple of weeks. I just left it aside. I also was starting my exams at the time, so I didn't really have a lot of time to paint, and I really wanted to take my time with this piece, and I tried to make every painting session worth it and work on it just take my time with it and make sure that I had time to work on it for as long as I needed to each time that I actually picked it back up. And so when I came back to it, I was happier with it than I was when I left it. But I realized that there was something off about it, and I did some tests in Procreate, just changing things and modifying things, and that really allowed me to understand what I thought had to be changed within it, and then allow me to, then actually make those changes. And I think that's what helped in the end to fix it, and I'm happy with it now. Also, in the reference that I used, I took those references myself. That's me in the photos, but it's not meant to necessarily be a self-portrait. I was wearing this really cool makeup, like I did some graphic things on my eyes with white eyeliner, and I did that like halfway through the photo shoot. So the 2 side portraits, I didn't have that in those references, but I did have it for the reference I based the center portrait off of. And at one point I just thought, this isn't really working, I'm not really sure what I'm doing with it, I'm just going to add them in. And I think that really brought it together. I don't know if I'd added that earlier on, it would have helped or not, but it really helped to put everything together at the end, and I'm happy I did. And then I think the most fun part for me was the detailing at the end. I didn't really add a lot of detail into the hair or the faces or the flowers or anything like that, but I did add some textures within the flowers, which was a lot of fun. But I wanted to just add some random dots and bits of interest around the background. I liked the abstract feel of the background showing through, and the flowers as well, and I wanted to emphasize that a bit more, and so I just played around with it, and I'm really happy with what happened with it and what came out of it. This was my first time doing anything of the kind, and I've started working on other paintings since, and I'm trying to emphasize that and bring that to other pieces as well. It's been really interesting. So this was a really fun painting project. I think I learned a lot, and it feels good. I'm really proud of this. It's the biggest oil painting that I've ever done, and I'm sure eventually I will want to work in this size again, maybe even bigger. Feels really daunting to think about right now, but I'm curious to see how my art will keep changing and evolving, and I'm very excited to share that with you. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the full process of this painting and hear me ramble about it for almost 15 minutes. If you have any questions about it, please leave them below. I'd be happy to hear any thoughts about it as well. And with that, I will leave you. I hope you have a nice week, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!